in Splyce, and straight out the gates, Irelia Mord bans.
I was going to get that Azir prediction in from the side of Misfits. I do think that for Humanoid, it is one of his best champions. He used to be known as an Azir one-trick back in the day before he even joined the LEC, and now it is primed and in meta, and last week he had a very impressive performance on it up against SK. So no surprise the Misfits want to take that one off the board. Another target ban towards Humanoid as well with the Kiana.
All right, so the Elise is taken away, and no Sangria for Splyce today, but a very quick lock-in on the Akali. Reminder that Humanoid has been picking that one up in recent weeks, but you look a little shocked, Vedius.
Because for it to be first picked is very surprising. From what I've heard from pro players, one of two conditions have to be met for Akali. Number one, you have to be insanely talented at this champion in order to make her work right now in her current state. And number two, you can't blind pick her because there are so many counters. So this suggests to me that A, Splyce are extremely confident in Humanoid, but also B, they are throwing the gauntlet down against Leader and saying he doesn't have anything that can match up well into it.
If there was any team that prepares better for their opponents than Splyce, I don't know many. Splyce come in, they research, they know their opponents. We know Leader, we know his playstyle, we know his tendencies. So you mentioned throwing down the gauntlets. Will Leader surprise us, or will he fall for the trap cards?
Well, you know, based on the draft right now, it looks like Leader could be considering a Yasuo pick into the Akali. Very skill intensive, we've seen him play it before, and we'll see how well it works out for him if he even decides to go for it. In terms of the rest of the draft, things are looking pretty standard for both sides. Luck's still very strong, going to be going down towards the bot side of the map for Splyce. They're actually going to prioritize getting themselves the Skarner here for Xerxe. High pick potential, strong at level 6. I would say that it doesn't give you a very strong 2v2 in the mid lane. If Misfits do choose to go for the Yasuo right now, I think that it gives them immediate priority in that mid lane and a very clear lane for them to play around as well.
Man, and then if that execution pulls, if it works, it is a benefit. It's going to be the Sylas locked in instead of the Yasuo right now. And this is a little bit of a surprise draft from Splyce, but as we mentioned, this is a team that prepares well, and they sort of anticipate their opponents. It's up to Misfits and this LFL roster to show us what they can do. So with the Sylas being locked in, does that increase the likelihood of still a Yasuo bid?
Well, if anything, it decreases it because it suggests that right now this is going to be going into the mid lane. Remember at MSI, this was one of the go-to counter picks for the likes of Caps to answer the Akali matchup, and given that Conqueror is the go-to rune choice on Sylas right now, if nothing else, it should make the matchup even more favorable. And on this patch, he did receive a couple of very small buffs after his nerfs that he received on 9-12. We'll see how the mid lane matchup still plays out because he doesn't get a shield on his E anymore, but if nothing else, Misfits are very confident on it, and now that they're banning away AD carries, this to me suggests that they're going to be looking to prioritize the AD carry pool and limit what options Kobbe has available to.
Well, all the AD carries in Caitlyn, Lucian, and Xayah taken off the table. Nico as well. Insta-lock Sivir for Neon on his LEC debut. And as you mentioned, it's going to be up to Splyce now to respond. Let's see where they go. They've obviously got themselves an AD carry to confirm here to join that Lux in the bottom lane. And there's something for Vizicsacsi up top. What would you like to see?
Well, I think the Vayne could actually work extremely well, but they're going to take it a little bit safer and go for the Kaisa. Kaisa, not as popular these days as she was in the past. Various itemization changes, various nerfs to the champion as well, and also increase in priority for other AD carries has made her life a little bit harder. But into the Sivir matchup, I think that she can do fine. We're actually going to see a Gnar Vizicsacsi as well. This will give counterpick options for Misfits. Remember that Yasuo could still be locked in. It's a great pick into the Gnar up towards the top side of the map. But there's still a lot of flexibility with the Sylas, with the Gragas, as to where everything is going right now for Misfits.
Okay, a couple seconds left before Jezzes and Misfits will be able to secure their final draft. It's going to be Gangplank up into the top lane, into the Gnar, Sylas mid, and the Sivir Rakan down bot.
So it looks like Misfits going to try and stick to standards, stick to what they know. DanDan has picked himself up a split pusher, but someone that can also impact the bot side of the map. You'll notice that with Sivir and Rakan, Neon and Hiva should be able to gain priority and pressure in this 2 versus 2 as well. And I also feel that with the Sylas Gragas, Misfits actually have themselves a strong mid-jungle duo early on, especially against the likes of a Sylas and Akali. So across the board, I think Misfits can be pretty happy. They have pressure in the bot side of the map, they have pressure in the mid-jungle, and while they will fall at a deficit towards the top side, DanDan is used to playing this style of being left in an island, playing much more towards the weak side of the map, and not really getting the resources that someone like a leader typically would.
So on paper, when you just just look at the champions and you just think about them being played to their optimal, there are some benefits.
Yes.
What is the ease of execution for this roster with this much pressure and this many eyeballs on them to pull it off?
Hey man, Sivir ult, you press R, Rakan ult, you press R, you also press the ultimate on DanDan's Gangplank. I feel like it's a very straightforward, confident to execute. I think they've got comfort, and I think it's the best strategy they can go use up against an empowered Splyce right now.
Well, it makes me very happy to see Soaz in the audience watching Misfits take to the stage. Let's see what these young guys can do coming up against the third best team in Europe. For more insight on the draft, here's Law and the Misfits coach.
Now, Jesse, I think it's the first time in EU history we have an entire roster swap just like that. So tell me, you've been working with this guy for months now. So what can we expect from this roster?
I don't really know what to expect. I mean, obviously, a lot of them are rookies, or at least for some of them, it's been a while since they played, right? Generally, like especially with scrims and the lower leagues, like EU Masters and LFL, they're always very comfortable, and I think they've really adapted the mindset of like no regrets, you know, and just plays like super aggressive, and they don't really care about inting. But I think we're just gonna have to take it step by step. Like this weekend, you know, if we int it, if we lose, like, there's not much to do about it. So, you know, we're just going to do our best.
Having to fill in for veterans isn't easy. So how were they on stage before you left?
They're really good. They're in good spirits. Yeah, I mean, they're just happy, ready to play, super excited. Everyone's super excited, so.
Well, thank you very much, Jesse. Now back to you guys on the Rift.
Thank you very much, Law, and thank you very much, Jez's. A pretty candid interview and fairly realistic, you know, not overselling. I got a lot of genuine response there that this roster, you're just going to see what they can do. It is a huge opportunity for the EU Masters champions in Misfits Premier to now play as an entire roster on the stage. And in theory, the teamwork of these five should be better than the teamwork of the former five. And that's what we're going to see today.
Well, the problem is they're going up against the teamwork of this five, the known as Splyce. And teamwork has been one of their biggest strengths. We heard a lot from the analyst desk at the start of the day talk about how Splyce work very well in how they move around the map, how they play around objectives, and a lot of that is because of how great Xerxe is at utilizing pressure in the early game. And one of the advantages that they do have is that Gnar will generate a lot of pressure, potentially allow Splyce to set up for dives up towards the top side of the map. So once Humanoid gets level 6, once Vizicsacsi hits that level 6 mark as well, keep your eyes on Humanoid to see if he looks for a roam up towards the top side to try and shut down the Gangplank. On top of that, with the Lux down in the bot lane, even though Sivir can be very obnoxious at pushing in lanes, given that Kobbe and Norskeren got to lane early, notice how they've actually been able to get pushed in this 2 versus 2, and this will be really valuable to them because they'll also get the wave to bounce back towards them. And when you're that shorter range Kaisa and you have the pick potential from the Lux as well, it's actually a much better setup to have. So Splyce in this early laning phase so far, feeling very comfortable, and they've kind of got the map set up to deliver.
I want to keep my eyes on that bot and mid lane from Misfits, as you mentioned in draft. If Leader can get some support from Kirei in the coming minutes and levels and try to put some additional pressure on Humanoid, I want to see what they can do. Remember, this Sylas was picked into Akali, so they opted into this matchup. And whenever I see teams do that, they choose to commit to that fight. You then have to evaluate, was it the right call? Did they execute it correctly? Was it the right decision to make? And you can see Leader just pushing this wave in as the jungler's going to meet in the river.
So look at Xerxe right now. Notice how the entire top side of his jungle has camps available. He's passed towards the bot side. That's because he's expecting Kirei to look for a gank either mid or bot lane. So he's putting himself in a position where he can get into the river, scout out what Kirei is doing, and answer. And because of this, Kirei now can't find any early game ganks. Just very good awareness and good early pathing from the side of Xerxe.
And of course, the early advantage of Kobbe and Norskeren pushing that wave forward. Xerxe going to back away. You can see every time Norskeren gets a chance, just ducking away from that lane, moving up into the river. The Scuttle Crab will get picked up as Kirei's on the Sentinel. And DanDan on the minimap is shoving that wave into Vizicsacsi right now. We'll be getting that underneath the tower. Quite a bit of damage with those parlays. And Here comes Leader. Red buff Crystal / Skarner is really difficult to deal with. Leader teleported back to lane, by the way.
Yeah.
Got himself that Null Magic Mantle, Negatron, as well as that Control Wars.
Very early TP,
Yep.
in fact. He actually just tried to push in the wave as much as possible. He even used his health as a resource in order to force that push. Humanoid, because he was clearing out the wave, hasn't actually had an opportunity to reset yet. So Leader with this item advantage means that even though he's a level behind, he should still be able to trade relatively well. But Humanoid is now going to use this opportunity to base. And I wonder if he'll choose to TP, because Splyce are in a position now where they could have a summon a spell advantage, which means at the moment Humanoid hits level 6, again, they can utilize that teleport to look for a play elsewhere, and notice how Humanoid, in fact, choosing to walk back to lane. So now we have to keep track of this TP, see what Humanoid is going to look to do with it, whether it be a bot lane play or a top lane dive with Vizicsacsi.
You just have to see what opportunities present themselves. Xerxe level 3, Chachi's getting close to 6, Kobbe 4, Norskeren 3. So looking for those ultimates as Kirei will be able to use the Predator and waddle his way in.
Bit of an
Get more than just a Q. I mean, Chachi, he read that well. He was not really at any risk.
So I think there was a stacking wave up top, so Kirei just wanted to hang around, but now we see a gank in the bot lane.
All right, Hiva is going to get the knock up onto Xerxe. Very quick flash. Neon's got his available. He's going to flash away and throws out the spell shield. Light Binding will still tag him. 2 flashes for a Skarner W. That's a fantastic trade.
So this is all set up early on. Remember how Kobbe and Norskeren were able to get to the lane very early, start that push and get that bounce back. The wave slowly pushed back towards them. Norskeren used his range to make it difficult for Neon and Hiva to really push the wave all the way out. So then this wave was in an awkward position to allow Xerxe to come down and set it for the gank. So good forward thought from Splyce, once again trying to punish where Misfits are looking to have pressure.
And look, Xerxe's not done yet. He's waiting in the wings. Kirei is nearby, but this could go south very, very quickly. Humanoid will get his ultimate stolen away, so Leader hits 6 first, and Xerxe is going to back away. But this is a really good start for Splyce. I mean, Vedius, you were talking about how the mid-jungle for Misfits could do well, how the duo down bottom could have pressure, but it's Splyce that have read it, responded, and come out somewhat ahead.
And a lot of it is thanks to Xerxe, in my opinion. His early pathing, the way in which he's playing around his mid and bot is extremely good, and it's limiting the options that Kirei has. But Kirei has been farming well. He's now hit level 5. We do see a number of people hanging around the mid lane. Hiva is on his way as well, expecting the roam to come out from Norskeren, but it looks like no kills will come down.
All right, while all that is going on, the support's roaming towards mid. Neon and Kobbe both teleported back down to the bottom lane. Neon's got himself that BF sword, as well as the Sapphire Crystal and the pickaxe for Kobbe. And there will be some additional support coming down. Norskeren makes his way down bottom. 6.5 minutes in. This game is as even as it can be. And if you are a Misfits fan, you kind of want them to try and make some moves sooner than later, because if you were to predict which team was going to win the mid and late game, you have to give the benefit of the doubt to Splyce every single time.
Well, that's definitely true, but I think right now with Misfits comp, they don't have to force anything too early. The Gangplank ultimate is the big thing that I'm looking for, where they'll utilize it to try and force a play somewhere. Hiva still needs to get that level 6 mark as well, and he can look for roams and try and force plays as well. I think a lot of levels are still required before teams start like forcing plays or forcing moves, and I still have my eyes set on that teleport from Humanoid. I'm expecting him to utilize it to try and force a play somewhere, because Leader will not be able to answer.
Okay, so very few plates have fallen, if any, where we're in a situation where Splyce have got 2 teleports available to them in Humanoid and Chachi. We'll finish that thought in a moment as Kirei not really going to find an opportunity, doesn't have that ultimate available to him. Kobbe not going to chase any further, but Splyce have the advantage as far as the summoner spells are concerned. They are 500 gold up right now. So if we look a few more minutes into the future, no kills yet, no tower pressure, you know, is the onus on any team to actually make this first move? We're pretty content, just scale up and see who makes the first mistake.
I think right now, both teams are quite content. What I'd like to see from Splyce is actually a play either towards DanDan or maybe even set up a bot dive. There are no flashes on Neon and Hiva right now. The problem is that Humanoid can't assure himself mid lane priority, which is making it harder for him to actually look to roam. But now that Xerxe is level 6, this is where we could see that opportunity come out. So he's moving down towards the bot side of the map. He can zone Leader away from the wave, allowing Humanoid to actually get that push. And then we'll see if they try and force a play somewhere else on the map.
All right, I'll keep my eyes on the mini-map then. Ward Wars in the South River as Leader and Xerxe find one another. Kirei's now moved all the way down to the bottom tri-bush. He's got that ultimate available, so he could boop targets in towards Neon and Hiva. Hiva's also got himself the quickness available. So, man, these teams, they're looking for opportunities, but they're playing very, very cautiously. Just remember that both Xerxe and Humanoid have TP, so if Misfits make the move, Splyce can respond with a TP very, very quickly.
Which is why Misfits can't force this Drake right now. If they take the gamble, they're going to be outnumbered. They have to avoid it for the time being. If Vizicsacsi shows up, I'm afraid that's not the same thing as having a Gangplank ultimate, which is why Splyce is actually in a position to try and force this objective. So we'll see if Misfits look to contest. I think that they should.
All right, Cannon Barrage is available. Kirei's ultimate as well, leader at level 8. Misfits may fancy themselves a shot. Is going to move in. It's the Splyce Dragon that's been picked up. Now Hiva, he gets a knock up on the quickness. The Cannon Barrage is coming down, but Kirei's the first one to fall. First blood to Splyce. A quick second. Leader gets a respond on the backside though. Now he's chasing down Kobbe before Xerxe comes in for support. That is an impale, and that is a dead Leader. 3 for 1 in Dragon.
We talked about it. Splyce had the TP advantage. They were primed and ready to go for that fight. They were the ones that had the setup in bot, they had the setup in mid, they had the TP ready to go. Splyce executed the fight extremely well. They come out with an Inferno Drake and with a bunch of kills.
1,500 gold advantage, and Vedius, you said it was the wrong call. Splyce were ready for it.
So Misfits try to force this fight because they think that with the Gangplank ultimate and with Splyce stuck in the pit, that they're going to end up losing. But notice how Leader can only get onto Norskeren. Humanoid is buying loads of time on the backline for Vizicsacsi to TP in, and Misfits are completely split apart. It is just a matter of dissection from the side of Splyce as they rip apart Misfits, and they find themselves 3 for 1.
Man, you can just feel the pressure. Misfits fancied an opportunity, but just did not coordinate it effectively enough. Kill secured for Xerxe, Humanoid, and Kobbe. They got the Infernal as well. They're going to pick up the Rift Herald at 11 minutes on the clock. And it looks like Kobbe is now swapped. He's going to start pushing in this top wave. DanDan will be there to meet him shortly once this Herald goes down, but this is just a momentum play here for Splyce.
It was just really smart because they kept Vizicsacsi top and then they swapped Norskeren and Kobbe up towards topside to guarantee numbers. So this is an easy secure, and Misfits are not in a position to challenge. They don't feel strong enough right now. Splyce have the numbers advantage. DanDan actually returned to the top side, so they know they're going to have more people, and they're even looking for a dive onto DanDan.
All right, so the light binding was sidestepped. Kobbe not going to chase just yet. Killer Instinct is a few seconds away. Not going to be able to chase it down though. Rift Herald has been summoned, so the plate gank may just need to tower first blood with many members as well as minions. Splyce will be taking that one down momentarily. Xerxe, no impale, no flash, so Leader's easily able to escape. And if you look at the vision control of the north quadrant of this map, Splyce are just in a great position. The tower will fall, and they will get that goal.
And look how Splyce is ballooning this game right now. They're going to pick up their first tower of the game. 2,000 gold already. A lot of those plates and resources are going to be funneled into Kobbe, so he's going to get stronger that much earlier into the game. And all off the back of a single Drake pit. And this just kind of reiterates what they were talking about on the analyst desk, which is that Splyce are very good at playing around objectives.
Yeah.
They're very smart, and they understand how to use their pressure. And so far, they are kind of taking advantage of Misfits' inexperience to a degree.
I've actually got some stats to back that up while I expect us to go in a little bit of a lull. If you look at the graphic at the bottom of your screen, average game time for Splyce is slower than the league average by 3 minutes. They are lower on combined kills per minute. They have the lowest deaths per game. They spend almost 60% of their time in a close gold state. They're never in a huge deficit. They're not always in a huge lead, but they're one of these teams that seems to neutralize their opponents and create scenarios where Splyce can be in an advantageous position, and that's what we've seen this entire game. Controlled, calculated play in the laning phase, decisive dragon fight, and all of a sudden a 2k gold lead.
And the thing that I really want to illustrate is where this initial lead came from is Splyce held all the cards. Like they didn't skip any steps, they were very aware, they tracked all the summoner spells, and they were like, okay, this is the enemy team's state, this is our state. We know that we get to move to the dragon first because we reset first, we have pressure in bot lane, we're in a position where we can start this. We also have a teleport advantage.
Yeah.
If they make the decision to fight us, we have a numbers advantage, we win. If they don't, we walk away with the Drake. It is a win-win scenario for Splyce, and Misfits didn't have the awareness to go, okay, in this situation, we can't go for the Drake. And so instead, they tried to outplay it, they tried to get the better of Splyce, and unfortunately, they didn't have the cards. They couldn't make the right
It's one
play.
of those things where you see the play happening, and Vedius, before the fight began, you were just like, they shouldn't didn't pick this fight. This is not the right move to make. But sometimes if you put yourself in the Misfits player's shoes, you feel the pressure's on. You feel you have to make that play because if you do pull it off, then all of a sudden you're in the lead. But
I mean, for sure.
It was the wrong call
I mean,
to make.
if he steals the Drake, the trade is a little bit better to a degree. You know, fighting for an Infernal is definitely not a bad idea. If Hiva lands a good ultimate onto the right target, maybe this swings around. If leader is it, like, there's always room for outplay, right? Outplays can always shift a situation in your favor.
Yeah.
And in their domestic league, like, maybe this is a situation where they can make it work. But against a team like Splyce,
Yes.
they're the third best team in our league for a reason. Their teamwork is exceptional, and they just have a really good read of the current state of the map pretty much at all times.
And
So-
especially when Xerxe is leading, when Xerxe is able to download his opponent's jungler or his opponent's playstyle, it is a very, very good look on this team. Just an update for everybody watching. League officials are investigating a potential bug on one of the player's items. I will give you more information as I get it. But in the interim, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Splyce and the third base team. I actually said this last weekend on the analyst desk where coming into the beginning
Didn't you call them the best team in the league?
I did not. Medic actually misinterpreted my
Okay,
statement.
okay.
However, I will concede that it wasn't put as eloquently as I'd like.
Okay.
What I said was, if Splyce were able to take down Fnatic,
All right.
they would join the likes of G2 and be significantly better than the rest of Europe.
Okay.
So
That's a fair statement.
The statement that I was trying to set up was that there is 3 teams that are S tier right now in G2, Fnatic, and Splyce, and then everybody else. Like, these are the guys at the top of the league. These are the guys that are on top of the table. And I still am surprised. You know, the play style that has been victorious, that has been exciting, that has got me enticed with League again over the last 12 months is not necessarily what Splyce do. They've got, to me, a slightly more like older school Korean control style of gameplay, and it's working for this team.
But I will say, right, because a lot of praise is being thrown towards Splyce, so I'm going to be a bit of a Debbie Downer, Quickshot, because one of the biggest issues that Splyce do suffer with is how often their players actually get caught out in the mid game. And you'd think that I would immediately go to players like Vizicsacsi, but last week, Kobbe was one of the biggest culprits of getting caught out when he really shouldn't be, right? And you look back at the plays that they made against SK. It was Crown Shot that found Kobbe twice in that game where they had firm control and they had a massive advantage. In the game following up against Fnatic, Kobbe was caught out 2 or 3 times against the likes of Bwipo. And of course, there's always praise and there's always criticism on both sides, but something that Splyce do often suffer with is that when you reach that mid-game state and when the map opens up significantly and when the gold is in a neutral state, or it's close as we often describe it, then sometimes some of their players get complacent and they move into an area of the map that they don't have control over. And the likes of G2 and Fnatic have punished them for it, and they do punish them for it. And while last week Splyce were able to find a win, it was not clean League of Legends last week. There was a lot of fighting, there was a lot of chaos, and it was a surprisingly close game that Fnatic nearly came back into due to Splyce getting caught out in the mid game. So for me, that's one of the big things that holds them back from like a podium spot right now. But the great thing about Splyce as a team, as an organization, is they always seem to get better, especially in the second half of the split. So given their current state, as we enter the second half, you can only imagine that they identify these issues and they work on them and get better towards the end of the split.
I'm trying to remember the exact wording, but I saw a tweet from Xerxe where he said, whenever I play well in spring, something goes wrong in summer, and then we don't make worlds, and I don't want that to happen again. And it is true when you think about this play, and you think about the impact that Xerxe has had in this game. You know, reading Kirei's moves, being available whenever pressure was put around. And you know, I'm still just waiting for an update to everybody at home, and then we will jump back into Splyce versus Misfits.
If you let me talk for a little bit, Quickshot,
yes,
I reckon the producers can give you an update.
Fantastic,
so,
thank you, Vedius.
I'm going to fill in for you because what you may notice is that we're actually jumping back into game. So there's your update. Humanoid and Xerxe are going to be making their way towards the blue buff, and let's have a look at the overall map. Because right now, we're approaching the 13-minute mark. Splyce at about a 1.7k gold lead. They have a tower advantage, they have a dragon advantage, and now we're looking at where they put their pieces as we move into the mid-game stage.
Well, talking about the mid-game, let's talk about the mid lane. Hiva as well as Kirei are making their way forward. I will wait for this potential engage to play out before I give an update.
No, you're good. You're
what
good.
happened. And as this has fizzled, Neon did pause and requested a review. He believed there was a bug with an item being sold. After League officials reviewed the footage, it was an accidental sale of the item from Neon. So one of the new players to the stage, Hiva is back on the stage and he's been taken down by Kobbe. And it feels a little bit bad. Obviously, Neon feeling the nerves, feeling the pressure. I'm glad he did ask for the review. And then Hiva just getting caught out. I think he felt his vision made him safe for the next.
This is a prime example of moving somewhere when you don't have pressure, right? In the mid lane, when we get the replay, what you'll notice is that both Kobbe and Norskeren are quicker and in a better position to move down to collapse versus the Misfits members, which means that Hiva tried to force an invade when he didn't have the proper support to do so. Ultimately, this results in his death, especially seeing as Xerxe is level 9, and his ultimate can just lock you down and buy enough time for the rest of his team to join. So again, as we can see on the minimap state, 2 members of mid lane already moving down. Hiva thinks that he's safe to move into the enemy jungle because he's got a couple of wards that are around. He face checks into the brush. Only Kirei is there to support him, and he ends up losing his life.
All right, Xerxe is going to look for a stun here onto DanDan. Norskeren has got the Loosen Singularity out. Cannon Barrage and Flash will allow DanDan to escape for now. Looking at the minimap, leaders putting pressure up top. Hiva's going to get blown up by a perfect execution. Then Humanoid's literally just going to dash away.
Another very quick pick on the side of Splyce. They punish Hiva once again, but this time it was Humanoid alone. And he's able to quickly shut down the level 6 Rakan. And to be honest, there's not much you can do against a level 11 Akali.
Okay, so turret plates have fallen. We're 15 minutes in. Project for me the next few minutes of this game as Chachi takes down bottom tower.
So right now, Splyce are looking to break the final outer towers. Given that Misfits have invested so many resources up towards the top side of the map, there's little that they can do against Vizicsacsi, especially seeing as DanDan doesn't have flash. So Splyce easily secured that objective. The next objective they're going to be looking for is the mid lane tower. In order to do that, they're going to need priority on their side waves. So what you'll notice the Akali do is he's going to wait for this tower to drop. He's going to look to push this wave out, and he's probably going to stick into a side lane, and Vizicsacsi's going to group up with the team in mid, while DanDan is just stuck on support clear duty in the bot side.
All right, now Misfits are going to have a counterplay though, as Humanoid will get paused, knocked up, and survives. Norskeren with the shield. Now Humanoid fancies a counter engage. Misfits unable to find the kill, but they did get the tower, and Humanoid still sticking around to shove that wave back.
I like the play from Misfits. It was they had good setup towards the top side of the map, but Humanoid played very defensively. He was very aware that a dive might be coming. The rest of his team is resetting on the map right now. He has to play careful, and so Misfits aren't quite able to find that punish. Good awareness there from Humanoid.
Yeah, nicely done. Humanoid, by the way, 200 gold bounty, got that Gunblade completed. Rage Blade and Man Immune for Kobbe. As Xerxe and Norskeren are going to steal away this red buff. I'm looking at the minimap to see this wave pressure being set up because I want to see how quickly Splyce then peel from the side lanes to come put pressure mids.
So as we were talking about, DanDan was stuck on wave clearing in towards the bot side, and given that Misfits just forced a reset after trying to make that play top, they've actually had Humanoid push all the way in. They've gotten deep vision up towards the top side, but they haven't actually brought Vizicsacsi up yet. He still has his teleport available to him, and Splyce are actually just happy keeping the Misfits in this kind of 1-3-1 setup, so that because they know they can slowly build these farm and XP advantages.
And of course, on the Misfits side, they've got some additional tools. Now, there's the engage here onto Kobbe. He's got flash available. Not going to be able to do it. Can't even get over the wall. But Misfits committed a flash and a teleport for that kill. Can they get any more? That's what I want to find out.
Right, nice pick there from the side of Misfits. They recognize only 2 players on the side of Splyce are in the mid lane. We were just talking about it. Vizicsacsi's still bot. They know Xerxe's in the top side jungle. So Misfits like, hey, I think we can actually go for a pick here, and they're able to find it.
Does that count as Kobbe being in the wrong place, or is that praise for Misfits?
I'm going to give praise to Misfits in this instance. I think that was a good pick. I think that Kobbe felt safe because he expected Misfits to answer the pressure being applied top, and instead he doesn't.
Pop! Humanoid kills Hiva. One of the things that will play into the Misfits camp a little, with a Sivir as well as Gragas and Gangplank, there's a fair amount of wave clear tools available to them.
Yes.
And if DanDan is stuck in a side lane and Cannon Barrage is available as it is now, it's actually extra difficult for Splyce not only to get to the tower, but then to get through all those abilities. So there are stall tactics available on the Misfits side.
But this is why I think it's important to bring Vizicsacsi to the team and actually make this 4-man clump. and then ideally move Humanoid into Fog of War so that you threaten a dive. That means that the wave clear tools actually can't approach the wave until it's already at the tower, and then you risk getting dived yourself. So I feel like Splyce, they have options available to them, but right now they're still sticking to keeping the map fairly open. They're not trying to push their lead too much. And they've kind of slowed the game down just a little bit.
This is a really, really good example game of sort of textbook decision making. We're getting a lot of time to break down objective focus, looking at the minimap state. So the next challenge I'm going to throw your way to explain to me, Vedius. At 20 minutes, Baron comes up. Around about the same time, Mountain Drake comes up. That's a split decision. So, like,
I'm going to say the Dragon is the one they're going to play for.
But,
bold guess, I know.
So obviously that means a little bit more like bot focus. So let's assume Splyce want to work towards that. What steps?
So, one of the things that they're... Well, I'm going to actually start with Misfits, because they're the ones that have control over the Dragon right now. They're the ones that were able to push in bot by using more numbers up against Vizicsacsi, and they're able to get a couple of nice wards onto the entrances. Now, the question is whether Misfits look to dive Vizicsacsi, because they see the play. Xerxe is just sitting in the jungle, he watches it happen, and it looks like that Misfits' focus is actually to try and secure this tower, and Splyce, they do not want to give it away for free. Instead, what they're doing is they're applying all their pressure up towards the top lane. Look what Humanoid is doing. He's level 13 right now on the Akali. He is applying loads of pressure onto DanDan, and DanDan knows that Humanoid can easily 1v1 him. So he has to play very defensively. They have no pressure up towards the top side, and Misfits are in the situation where Splyce say, okay, listen, if you go for the Drake, then we're actually going to threaten your top tier 2. We might even send the Skarner up there to threaten a dive and maybe get this tower. So Splyce always have options, even though it looks like Misfits are the ones in control of the main objective.
All right, and of course for Misfits, let's see if they can get it. The last time they tried to fight around Dragon, it went horribly. Misfits still find themselves 3,000 gold down. The Baron and that Mountain Drake will be up very, very soon. There's still sizable item advantages here for a number of members on the side of the Splyce camp. And now they're starting to challenge this vision down the bottom lane. 2 towers to 1, 6 kills to 2, 2 dragons to 0. And Neon's actually going to be teleporting in to join the Misfits squad, as now all of a sudden it feels like Splyce are the ones that are in control of the river and the control around the Dragon Pits.
So what I really want to do, quickly look at, is the items, and you'll notice that Misfits have a lot completed. Trinity Force done on the Gangplank, Essence Reaver done on the Sivir. You'll also see Loon's Echo completed for Leader. Misfits are pretty strong right now, but they're just not in a good position to enter the Drake Pit, because bot lane is pushed in, mid lane is pushed in, and even though Misfits want to fight, Splyce are making it extremely difficult.
Will Misfits pull the trigger? Heaver's quickness and flash is available. On the Hunt has been thrown down, but the Mountain Drake is already secured. There's the engage, though, by Humanoid, going all the way forward. That's a massive final spark. Humanoid's got one, got another. Kobbe takes down Neon. Inside the Dragon Pit, Leader's trying to get something back, but he's locked in place, and Vizicacsi's Gnar secures yet another. Leader gets at least a second back for the fight, but now he's being run down by Akali. Will not get caught by the boulder toss as Leader continues to get chased. This is 2-on-1, but it's a lot of mobility and healing on the Leader side. 4 members of Misfits drop, and they lose Dragon.
But again, even though Misfits were strong enough to fight, they wanted to fight, they wanted to challenge Splyce for this Drake, the positioning just was not there for them. They were funneled into this choke point. Heaver had very limited options in who he could try to collapse on, and Leader, he was just completely zoned out of the fight by Xerxe alone. He just used his Impale, dragged him around, wasted his time, and again, just look. Misfits are all just clumped into this little narrow choke point, and then Humanoid gets that really great engage with a really strong ultimate stun, and then Norskeren is able to land his ultimate onto multiple people. Kobbe goes in a little aggro, but he knows that he has the support of Vizicsacsi and Humanoid to help secure these kills as well. Meanwhile, Leader on the bot side, he's been busy dealing with Xerxe, who can't even secure a kill onto. He does get one back onto Norskeren, but again, it was just all the cards were in Splyce's hand, and Misfits were very limited on what they could play.
5-0-2 on Humanoid's Akali. He managed to use DanDan to shuffle onto Heaver at the start of that fight. Blind pick, first pick. And it is absolutely showing up. Now, Humanoid, not done yet. We'll get caught out just a tad, but even Leader, they do not want to pick this fight.
Heaver's only level 8 Quickshot.
He's got himself a QSS, man. That's it.
Wow.
But he's been picked on every time Humanoid's had a chance. He shot him out of the sky with 2 spells.
But I just really want to emphasize, and I want to make sure that if the viewers walk away with nothing else, how well Splyce are playing the map and how they're setting things up. And it's this is a great example of veterans versus rookie, right? Like, a lot of the times when rookies come to the league, they are often paired with veteran talent because you bring the raw mechanical skills of the rookie with the experience and leadership that a veteran possesses. When you have 5 rookies, well, to a degree, some of them have obviously been in the LEC before.
I think we can say rookies to a degree. I mean, Hiva's the oldest member of the team.
And Neon used to play for UOL as well.
There we go, long time ago.
But the point that I'm trying to make is like Splyce is like a well-oiled machine at this point, and they don't need to fight you mano a mano. They're just playing the map beautifully, and now they will finally secure that out of town.
And that's their style as well. A team that does play slower games, does play objective-focused, less kill-heavy. That's the Splyce squad. And this time they're proving it. They've conceded 4 deaths in 23 minutes. Got themselves a 4,000 gold lead. Now they're going to be looking towards a Baron at some point in the not-too-distant future. And by the way, at 24 minutes, they've only conceded a single tower. So not only have they been proactive and pushing into Misfits and controlling what Misfits can and cannot do, they're also defending their own territory at the same time. It is very, very impressive.
So now my question is, do Misfits go for a last-ditch Baron?
Yes.
They are quite far behind. One way in which they can come back into the game is if they're able to sneak a Baron buff. Notice how they pushed in the top lane. Leader is actually level 15 and has a level advantage over Humanoid. He has 3 kills right now and is the potential saving grace for the side of Misfits. And with the amount of control that they have around the top side of the map, there is the potential for that Baron sneak, but their Baron take just isn't that quick.
No, especially when you look at Neon. Essence Reaver, BF Sword, and Brawler's Gloves. In comparison, Nash's Tooth, Rage Blade, and Mirror Man are already upgraded. I mean, it's night and day difference between Kobbe and Neon right now. So Misfits, do they pull the trigger? Can they surprise the Splyce team? I think if it was a different squad, maybe. I think Splyce will be ready for it. I think they'll sort of
Things are coming down. You can see, look at the positioning of Xerxe right now. He's got what's exclamation mark pings going down to the Baron, and he's saying, hey, they might be here. I think they could be doing this. Can we get some vision? Can we check? A lot of the blue trinkets are unavailable right now, but you can use the Lux E to try and check, scout out. And so they're kind of prying, checking very slowly, very carefully, seeing what Misfits are up to.
Okay, look at the vision as you mentioned. Splyce are aware, thanks to the 2 control wards deep inside Misfits territory in the top and bottom. Our observers have toggled, so we are looking at Splyce vision. And of course, Mountain Drake's coming up fairly soon. Teleport's available for Chachi as well as Humanoid. And they're still grouped up, but look, after all of that pressure that Misfits have built up and tried to move forward, it simply is too risky a call right now. So they didn't start Baron, they haven't done anything, and now we're looking at Misfits POV. It's darkness, there's nothing. So Misfits have to take some gambles and try to make some decisions on where they want to go.
But also notice how Splyce also still have a lot of vision available in their kit too, right? Splyce are like primed and set, and they were like, all right, Misfits, we're fine conceding some of this control over the map right now because we know that we can reclaim it. And once they reclaimed it, they start threatening the Baron.
Okay, so that final spark was just thrown down. I'm going to have to ask my observers to double-check what for exactly. Kirei's got Flash, got Smite available. Cannon Barrage is inside the pit, and Baron has now been interrupted. Teleport for DanDan will bring him into the river. Leader has stolen away Humanoid's Akali ultimate. Vizicsacsi's in Mega Gnar, but Humanoid's gone very, very low. He's already picked up a kill onto Hiva. Chachi's still dissuading the rest of Misfits. Chachi will get himself a stun before he goes down. That's a very good impale. Leader's being melted. He goes golden for a few seconds, but Kobbe is picked up. DanDan with a double-double. Now Norskeren's in trouble. Neon and Leader jump over the wall. Neon kills Norskeren, and Splyce may have botched it.
And just like that, Misfits may be back into the game. That crucial pick onto Humanoid to force him out of the fight so early from Leader was what changed it around. But Splyce haven't given up yet.
No, they haven't. Humanoid's coming back in. The teleport has been completed. Xerxe rather has got himself the smite. It's a 2-1-4. Leader's going to be in trouble though. He's got a lot of damage. He's already been shut down. Baron's still at 4,000 hit points. Smite has already been used just for some health. Kirei is gone. And just as you think Misfits have a chance, Splyce bite back. Humanoid throws out the spells and picks up a triple, looking for the quadra. It's Chachi that kills Neon, and Humanoid picks up the quadra kill.
And Splyce once again make sure that Misfits know this Baron belongs to them. There was a glimmer of hope in the eyes of Misfits. Splyce quickly shut that down.
That was one of my favorite coach reaction cams ever. Laughter on the side of Splyce, dismay on the side of Misfits. The Baron will be secured by Splyce. but not after some drama in the pit. Humanoid 904. This Akali continues to pay off. I was nervous in draft, and here's a replay brought to you by Alienware.
So, keep an eye on what Humanoid is doing right now. He thinks that he's zoning the enemy team away. He actually gets chunked out extremely early on, gets charmed up, gets knocked up, and he's not actually threatening anyone. While he does kill the support, he's forced out of the fight, and Neon and Leader are still alive. This means that they get to run rampant in the fight. Leader just dishing so much damage, executing the Gnar as well. And Misfits, they get to chase down Splyce. And you think, okay, this is it, this is the Baron for them. However, Humanoid still has his teleport available. He rejoins the fight. Props the Leader here. He steals away Xerxe's ult to try and lock down Humanoid. And if that stun lands, they could actually kill Humanoid there. But a very quick sidestep from Humanoid allows him to avoid the Skarner ult from coming down. He's then able to dish out all this damage onto the side of Misfits, almost secures himself a pentakill, but Gnar steals it away, and he walks away with a quadra instead.
And also, you could see just how slow the Misfits Baron was. The build-up to this play was a little bit of a Baron dance. We were talking and theorizing, did Misfits want to make the call to try and rush it? Well, no, because they couldn't rush anything. They didn't have the damage available. So now Splyce are in an even more commanding position as we get to 30 minutes. They've got Baron, they got 7,000 gold lead. Just an update for everybody as well. Join Shocks, Ender, and Froskuren after the game breaks down. Oh, correction, it'll just be Ender. He's going to take a look at Xerxe's jungle pathing. That helped Splyce pick up that early game lead, which is now translated into late game control.
It was close, though. I think, you know, we got to throw some shade on Splyce for that Baron play. Very nearly allowed Misfits to come back into the game, but they are now in commanding fashion. They're threatening the inhibitors. There's still, I think like 2 minutes left on the Baron, so they should have plenty of time to siege into the base.
It does say it on the top right corner.
That's what I was looking for, but I couldn't find it.
Well, look at the right screen first, Vedius. Well, look, the thing that I like about this game is everything we expected Splyce to do, they've done. They've played controlled, calculated, they played to their style.
They got picked off in the mid-game.
Mid-game, exactly, right? So everything, but the interesting question that I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask fans and on Reddit and on social media is, did this Misfits roster put up a stronger fight than the one that would have played last week?
I don't know.
That's the weird and wonderful question that I am debating in my head, and I don't quite know where I stand. Obviously, we're going to need to see some more games from this Misfits team. And right now, they're trying to defend their base against Baron-empowered minions, as Kirei and Hiva are trying to get pushed back. Now, Leader will use perfect execution. He's got it available to him. Man, that's a lot of damage from Humanoid. He's going to look for the kill. Vizicsacsi goes into Mega. Crucially, though, none of the towers have fallen yet, Vedius.
Nope. Misfits still holding the line. 30 seconds left on the Baron, but there we are. Splyce, once they secure the inhib, it should be a lot harder for Misfits to be able to come back into this game. Easy objective secure, and now they'll rotate round to the mid lane with all 5 members.
Okay, now Neon, by the way, does have Rapid Fire Cannon, Eye Edge, and Essence Reaver. 300 CS, so if they can survive 200 CS more, maybe the 500 CS Sivir can work. On the Hunt is thrown down, Cannon Barrage is already dodged away from. Defensive flashes have come out, and Misfits, they are chasing. Another flash from Chachi, Light Binding catches Hiva. The Misfits, they cannot get in range. It's like the taller, older brother holding the young child by the forehead saying, why can't you hit me? Why can't you reach me? The inhibitor falls, Splyce in absolute control.
Misfits tried. They knew that that was their best opportunity. I believe the Baron had just worn off, and they wanted to just try and force a last-ditch fight. Before that, top wave started stacking up underneath the tower. Before the bot lane super minions started walking in. I think the idea was right, but unfortunately, they just couldn't quite close the gap. Yeah. There's so much mobility on the side of Splyce as well that it was just too difficult. So now, Infernal Drake will be the next big objective for the side of Splyce. I think that they'll look to secure that to get a bit of extra damage before looking to try and end the game. So Misfits, maybe they have one more opportunity to fight back, but it's always going to be an uphill struggle.
And the challenge with that is, even if you do get that opportunity and secure it, that is just to close the deficit. You actually need 2 or 3 of those opportunities to potentially come back into the game. And of course, following this, it will be Schalke taking on Vitality. But for now, Splyce need to just close this game out. Moving towards their average game time as Hiva is going to make his way to safety. And Kirei is also going to do the same. I mean, it's just absolute control everywhere. Super minions, look at the minimap. They're about to meet DanDan in that bottom lane, and that will unlock Splyce chipping away at further towers.
Yep. 30 seconds left on the Baron. Misfits, they know that that was their best opportunity to fight back, but it's always going to be an uphill struggle. So now, Infernal Drake will be the next big objective for the side of Splyce. I think that they'll look to secure that to get a bit of extra damage before looking to try and end the game. So Misfits, maybe they have one more opportunity to fight back, but it's always going to be an uphill struggle.
Yep.
Gangplank, though, still actually has decent wave clear, especially this late into the game. 3 items now fully completed for him. Humanoid, as he often is, being sent off to a side lane, and Vizicsacsi grouping up with the rest of his team. I think Vizicsacsi is actually securing the blue buff right now.
And his teleport's going to become available very, very soon.
Yep.
Donating the blue to Kobbe. He's going to throw out the W to secure it, and Infernal 10 seconds up. All right, Misfits, come on. Let's go into the grinder once more. Every time there's a fight in the pit.
Well, they're actually going to go for it. I suppose, yes, it is your last-ditch effort. Let's see if they can pull it off. Again, though, they're going to be forced into this narrow choke point.
All right, so what would the right call be, Leonidas? Because fighting in a choke point working for them.
Give up the back.
Okay.
Dragon.
Give up the dragon, which is what they've done. And I guess if you were going to force a fight, would you do it in the Baron pit?
Yes.
All right, let's see if they get a chance. Here comes Humanoid, jumps over, Neon's forced to flash. Eva's trying to buy time. Teleport's coming in as well. Cannon Barrage gone down. Vizicsacsi charging. Whoa, the damage from Humanoid! Neon is absolutely obliterated. Now Vizicsacsi, he's about to gnar out, but not before Leader takes him down. Xerxe gets himself in a pail before he goes down. DanDan's blown up on the side. Kirei's running for his life, and Splyce have split apart Misfits, picked apart Misfits, and they are looking to kill the squad of Hiva. Jumps to his death, and there's only Kirei remaining as Splyce pour into the base.
Excellent collapse from the side of Splyce. They only lost 1 member, and now with the remaining 4, they'll look to close out this game against Misfits. The young rookie squad did what they could, but unfortunately, Misfits was Splyce was far too strong.
10-0-6 on Humanoid's Akali, 3-0-9 on Xerxe's Skarner. Splyce take down Misfits. And if you could give Kia player of the game for early game, it would be Xerxe. For late game, it would be Humanoid. I genuinely do not know how I vote.
Yeah, I think both definitely very impactful in this game. I think Norskeren also had a very solid game. Nice to see from him. Kobbe, he did die in the mid. I mean, like, he died a lot this game. He was a little over-eager at times. Sometimes he got caught out. But overall, the entirety of Splyce played very, very well. Very difficult to criticize. Oh, okay, maybe outside that Baron. There was a couple of criticisms.
There was just a few Splyce moments. You know, you mentioned it even beforehand. But look, this is exactly what you would expect. This is what you want to see from a top-of-the-table team taking on a bottom-of-the-table team. And just a reminder that very soon we'll be heading to Ender to take a look at Xerxe's early game pathing. But for now, congratulations to Splyce. They continue their win streak, 6-0. Right now, they end the round robin. They very, very healthy scoreline of 7-2. And it's a great position to be in. And the team, if they can keep this momentum up, are going to look to improve upon their 4th place finish from Spring Playoff.
Yeah, they certainly are. And based on the current performance of Origin, I think it's very fair to say that Splyce are within the top 3, and they're in a position to challenge the top 2 as well. And they will be going up against G2 tomorrow, which will be one of the big tests. It'll be the rematch. When we saw this matchup at the beginning of the split, it was a very one-sided affair. And I think that given G2's current state, it's going to be challenging, because while Splyce like this pretty controlled game style, G2 are a lot more about utilizing their pressure to get kills. And I had my stats team inform me that last week, G2 secured 41 total kills. The only team that has beaten them is themselves. So, like, they have been on a tear in recent performances.
The only thing that does give me a tiny bit of hope is when I think about how Splyce played Fnatic, I think about the draft they had in their play style. It wasn't very Splyce-like. There was some elements of, craziness in there, and tomorrow's the test, right?
Yep.
If Splyce take down G2 tomorrow after they took down Fnatic
a massive statement
last week, nobody can disregard this team anymore. Nobody can undersell this team anymore. But you got to do it. That's our match of the week. It is Game 5 tomorrow. We have plenty more League of Legends action to get through, and we also get to see what Fnatic looked like with Magic Felix, what Origin looked like after a week of practice, because they were saying they weren't quite ready last week, and we get to keep debating this top 3 discussion. But all I want to see on Reddit right now is this Misfits team, did they put up a bigger fight?
Well,
I love it. I love the theory.
No, there's no way to compare, because this is the last game of the second half. So, first half, rather. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
The next time these two teams match up, maybe the old 5 will be back. We don't know. And then we can compare it. But this just tells you the story. Up until 10 minutes, small leads.
I think that tiny dip was where the Baron occurred.
So that was the Baron play. Unbelievable. I mean, congratulations to Splyce. Another very, very good game and continues to...
I mean, it sets us up nicely for the Game 5 tomorrow,
It does.
right? Against G2. And now the big question is, what does G2 look like today? I believe...
XL, Game 3.
Yeah, they play up against XL. Oh yeah, we get to cast the one. That's
Yes,
going to be
we
an
do.
exciting one because XL looking very strong in the early game themselves. So we'll see how well G2 are able to match that. But if nothing else, viewers at home, walk away from this game knowing that Xerxe, he's a big brain jungler. He's really smart.
This was one of the games where I had anticipated or thought it could have been possible for the Kiana to maybe have been let through, to maybe have Misfits and Leader have some sort of answer. Tomorrow against G2 and Caps, there's part of me that almost expects it to happen.
The draft is always the biggest thing when it comes to playing against G2, right?
It's so exciting.
So we'll see how Splyce prep for it. They always have something prepared at the very least, and we'll see how good it is going up against G2.
Well, listen, we need to get you guys to vote on your Kia player of the game. Head over to @LOL eSports on Twitter and vote for either Xerxe or Humanoid. The third option doesn't count, so disregard it. It is only Xerxe and Humanoid.
You can vote for
You
Kobbe,
cannot. I forbid it. I forbid it. Seriously, I actually forbid it. This is a two-horse race. This is only Xerxe or Humanoid. For a closer look on how Xerxe ruled the jungle, let's check in with Enda.
Thanks so much, Quickshot. Now, I want to take a look at Xerxe's early game pathing in this match because even though it wasn't filled with a ton of kills, the way he moved around the map both confused Misfits and also built him up a large CS and gold difference, as we see here. So if we go ahead and throw up this early game from Xerxe, we notice right off the bat he's starting on the Raptor camp. And I want to draw your eyes to this ward right here because Splyce actually saw Misfits place that ward down on the Raptor camp right off the start of the game. And you think most junglers would then not start on the camp that is in clear vision of the enemy. But Xerxe does this intentionally because he wants to confuse Misfits and try to convince them that he's doing a path that he actually isn't. So you see, he walks down, the ward sees him moving towards his own red buff. And now Misfits are probably thinking, okay, this guy is going to go for a 3-camp clear, go back to base, then go up topside and clear those camps. But instead, Norskeren uses that bot lane priority to walk up into the jungle to put down a ward on towards the Misfits blue buff. From this point, Xerxe walks straight back into this bottom lane river because, again, he has priority coming from that bottom lane. That bot lane is going to be able to move up faster than the Misfits side of things. So all he has to do is buy time scrapping around with Kirei in the jungle here, knowing that in an extended trade, they will win out. So Norskeren moves on up into the river, helps clear that Scuttle Crab with Xerxe. Then Xerxe, knowing that the enemy jungle is on the blue buff, he then gets the second Scuttle Crab of the game. So you might say, okay, pause it right here. That's great for Xerxe. He got 2 crabs, call it quits there. And this is where most junglers would actually go ahead and go into their topside jungle because you have 3 juicy camps spawning up and ready. But Xerxe sees something differently because the Raptor camp that he started off the game by clearing has respawned and is level 4. And he is only level 3. So he's going to path immediately down towards the bottom side of the map. Again, confusing the side of Misfits. Now, not only does this confuse Misfits, but it's also going to mean that he gets that 50 bonus experience by killing the large Raptor that is a higher level for him. He then goes into the bottom lane. His Predator boots have come back up. He gets 2 flashes, helps push out the lane. And again, you think, okay, hold up. This is the point in the game where you go ahead and you clear your Krug camp that spawned again. You want to get that experience. But instead, he says, we must deny the Gragas. So the Gnar will walk into the blue buff to make sure no one is on that camp. And now Xerxe is going to path back up towards that top side to pick those up. He's actually going to sit around this mid lane for a little while, thinking that there could be a gank opportunity on towards Leader, who is pushing out, but will back away once he sees Gragas. And now, it's very interesting because he's actually down a level. Level 4 on Xerxe, level 5 on Kirei. But this is an investment that he made earlier, and he's trying to stay on the map for as long as possible. So now he goes back towards his topside camps. He's going to clear those away, excluding the Gromp, because he has one timer in mind, and that's the Raptor camp timer. Because he cleared it so early in the game, cleared it again off of respawn, that is going to be spawning up just about the same time that he finishes his red buff. And what is that going to give him? It's going to give him an incredibly early level 6, where Kirei was only only level 5. So he went from being down a level to actually being ahead of a level due to some clever pathing, and actually found that very clutch gank that burned 2 flashes onto the Misfits bottom lane by using this pathing that completely confused them. And they just had no idea where this guy was. Now, I wanted to bring this up, not because Xerxe used it to get a million kills or to run away with the early game like we've seen him do sometimes on pop-off champions like Elise, but rather to illustrate to you how clever Xerxe can be in his early game pathing to build an advantage, even though you might not always be looking for it. Now, to hear from the man himself, he's standing by with lore.
Thank you very much, Ender, and thank you, Xerxe, for joining me. Actually, he's right. You've been instrumental this game with the pathing, and you've been instrumental in many games before that. Have you been working on something particular in your pathings and the way you see the game to be so smashing in the early game?
Well, don't think I've been working specifically. I think I've been working more on how to just call the next objective as a team. I mean, personally, I feel like my pathing has always been one of my strengths, and my pathing has always been good. And I guess people just realize it now. That's the only thing.
Well, interesting, and better late than never, I guess. When I talked to you today before the game, you said that the hardest game was actually today. So how hard is it to come up against a team that has nothing to lose?
Okay, to be honest, there was a bit of pressure because when you play against a team who literally has nothing to lose and you have no idea like how these players are and how they are as a team, I feel like there is just so much more pressure to play against them. So yeah, it kind of did show in the games because we almost threw the game at the Baron, but thank God they threw as well. So yeah, I mean, I think we played kind of bad and with a lot of stress today.
Well, I mean, a win is a win in the end. And you have a big challenge tomorrow in match of the week against G2. You got smashed last time. How is it going to go next time? Because you look way better now, but is it going to be enough?
Yeah, I do believe so, because I don't think there is going to be as much pressure and stress, because like in a way people expect G2 to win already, right? So we are the team who has nothing to lose really, but we have to prove to ourselves that we are better. And if we want to compete for the top 3 spot and we want to go towards, then we're going to have to beat G2 at some point.
I agree with you. And one thing that I found interesting seeing the match of the week video was the fact that G2 was very respectful towards you guys and saying that they had to play carefully against Splyce. So how does that make you feel?
I guess it feels good that they're giving us some recognition. But yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for a good game and not a storm like last time.
Well, I wish you good luck on this one. Thank you for joining me. And we're going to take a short break. And coming back, Schalke 04 will take on Vitality. Stay tuned, guys.